Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BookGoodies podcast series. Today, we are going to be talking to a book publicist who you may not think you need a publicist, but I'll bet you do. Our guest today is Nancy. Nancy, how are you?
I'm great, Deborah.
Why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners and let them know what it is you do?
Terrific. My name is Nancy Sayles. And I'm a book publicist. I'm just lucky enough to actually have the name Sayles. It's spelled Sayles, however. And the name of my company is the Sayles Organization. I'm an independent book publicist. I've been doing this for 150 years, or it just seems like I have. And so authors are my thing. I have a great time dealing with a wide variety of authors, those who have just started in the business and those seasoned professionals who have been around for a long time. So I've kind of dealt with them all. Okay.
And do you work with both traditionally published authors and indie published authors?
I do indeed, and I work, when it comes to traditionally published books, I work either through the publisher or directly with the author, which is actually happening more and more these days since publishers' budgets are shrinking, as everybody's budgets are shrinking.
Yeah.
So what hasn't shrunk is the need for book publicity, because having a great book out there is one thing. But what are you going to do if nobody knows about it?
Exactly.
So that's why we deal directly with authors, and then with small publishers and independently published authors as well.
Now, okay, I'm a person. I just wrote a book. I had it edited professionally, and I just published it myself. And if I come to you, what are you going to tell me? What are the things that you do? Because I'm sure that a lot of our listeners have heard about a book publicist, and they have no clue what that actually entails.
Well, one of the things that I do first, which is not something that all of the publicists do, is that I want to see a copy of that book. I want to see a copy of the finished product or the proof or wherever you are in the process. Because if you are going the independent route, it is extremely, extremely important to have a professionally published product. Mm-hmm. But you want to avoid, and believe me, I'm an independently published author myself, so what I was trying to avoid during this whole process is coming out with a product that looked like loving hands at home. It's sometimes if you have a product that looks not professionally done, it doesn't matter if it's War and Peace. Mm-hmm. It's not going to do well, because people will look at it and say, "Oh, this looks like my kid could have done this in high school graphics class."
Yeah.
And so I think that the first thing that you have to do is get a really professionally produced, edited, designed product.
Yeah, don't use Comic Sans as your typeset font for your book.
No, that's very good advice.
Fortunately, the Kindle doesn't support it, but if you're going out to a print on demand, it's there. You can do it any way you want.
I know. But some of the good print on demand places will give you a lot of good advice. And if you don't know, then you got to take that advice. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer in allowing people to do what it is they know how to do. So if it's in terms of design of the book or editing the book or distribution of the book, get other people who have done it before to make recommendations for you, so that you're really proud of the product that you have. I once signed a contract with an author who sent me a carton of his books, or it was more than that. It was like 100 copies of the book, so we could get going on a publicity campaign. And I finally sat down to read it. And I found an error or two in the first couple of pages. And then I started reading further. And there was another error, and another, and another.
Yeah.
And I realized that this book had not been proofread. Mm-hmm. Somebody had pushed spell check,
yeah,
but they hadn't proofread the book. And it was awful. And I had to call up the author and say, I cannot send any of these books out, and you should not send any of these books out either. The only place these books really need to go is in the recycling bin.
Yep.
You've got to start over. And he did it. And he actually hired me to do the proofing. And I probably found something like, over 1,000 errors. It must have cost him a fortune to have corrected. But at least when all was said and done, he had a book that people wouldn't be turned off by, because as soon as they started to read it, they realized the quality of the product was not there.
Right, and which reduces the trust in the rest of the book.
Absolutely.
If you can't use words properly, and if you're writing something that's in an urban language and you're going to use urban speak, whatever, and that's what your book is supposed to be, then, great, have at it. But otherwise, you need to make sure that, even my daughter, who proofreads some stuff for me, she'll read some stuff from some of our other clients, and she'll be like, we can't deal with this because I can't get past the first 3 pages where there's so many typos and grammatical errors that right. you just lose your mind on it. You just can't.
Absolutely. But I think that once you have a product that you can be proud of, I think that what has to happen is that you team up with somebody who knows how to do this and get the word out to your audience. You have to find out who your audience is. Mm-hmm. You have to find, different, you have to zero in on who is going to buy this book, because there are so many, your competition is so great. Yeah. That you can't just throw it out there to the whole world and expect your book to be found. When I tell you I've been doing this a long time, it's a long time. And when I started in this business, Publishers Weekly had released a figure that there were 48,000 new titles published every year. And there I was in the 70s saying, 48,000 books, and I'm working for a house that's publishing 12 to 15 titles a year. How am I going to get recognized? How am I going to get any kind of space and attention for one of my books in 48,000? Well, yeah. Now I understand that we're talking about over 1 million, maybe 1.5 million new titles every year. So how are you going to get attention? It's almost impossible.
Yeah, but you need help.
Well, you know what's going to happen if you don't promote. And the answer to that is nothing. Mm-hmm. Just nothing will happen. So you have to identify your audience. You have to make sure that all the materials that are put together to describe your book, to promote your book, are absolutely pristine. You cannot put out press releases written by somebody who doesn't know how to write press releases. Okay. You can't, I don't think it's necessary anymore to put together expensive, glossy press kits because nobody reads those anyway. Everything is done electronically. Mm-hmm. But everything that goes out on this book, you put a year or 2 years of your life into it. Right. You want to make sure that everything that goes out is just great, just perfect. Then you have to know exactly where to get it, who to get it to. Mm-hmm. We used to take a couple of hundred books and put it out into the atmosphere, run it up a few flagpoles and see who saluted, and we would get a lot of attention. It is not that way anymore. There are almost no books that are sent out to, actual books put in jiffy bags and sent out to media. Everything is done electronically. You have to know where to go. You have to know to whom to send it. You have to know what kind of follow-up to do so that you don't become a pest. Mm-hmm. You don't let it just sit there, but you don't want to become a pest. Yeah. So, there's some middle ground. I'm asked often, do you have relationships with the media? Well, after 30 some odd years doing this, I certainly know who's out there. A lot of them are still people that I worked with, my entire career. Are they relationships? Yeah, if I have something that they want, you bet it's a relationship. And if I don't, I could be their mother and they wouldn't call me back.
Right, exactly. As you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, you wouldn't take like a book about a health subject and send it to a reviewer or a media that only reviews science fiction.
Exactly.
You need to know who to target. And it sounds to me like part of the publicist's job is to create that online media kit for you.
Absolutely. At least to have, whether or not it's done in kit form or it's just, documents that can be sent out to individuals.
Right.
It all has to be done with great clarity and quality.
Right, because you as a publicist, you know what the people are looking for that you're going to be sending this out to. And when I talk about a press kit for a book, nowadays I'm talking about like an electronic press kit where they would have a page that has like their high-res cover, their headshot, a press release, a bio, information, an information fact sheet, or whatever else needs to go into a press kit. Right. I probably don't even know all the elements that go into a press kit.
And, you don't want to send all of that to everybody.
No.
You don't want to gum up anybody's email. Mm-hmm. You want to query them first. And it's and it has to be done individually. I absolutely will not mass email media people.
No.
Dear producer. No.
No.
That's just not going to happen. When they see that, they push delete so fast it'll make your head spin.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to know something about the people that you're writing to, and you have to get a little clever in the subject line, and you've got a couple of lines in an email to get their attention.
Right.
It used to be in the old days you would send things in envelopes, and you would hope that you would get their attention. And you can't see me, but I wish you could. And as you have a piece of paper that's on the way to the wastebasket, you hope that they can, that they will, a word or two will jump out and say, oh, wait, maybe I should look at this. Yeah. Well, it's the same thing on a computer, because they just, they scan the subject lines, and if it doesn't grab them, it's not going to get seen.
Yeah.
And so, we still we have a combination of the new way and the old way, which is really what I'm involved in. I know that there are people who only do internet promotion. They do search engine optimization. They do electronic distribution of, mass electronic distribution of information on various titles. And I think they do Facebook and they do Twitter and they do all of this stuff. And my problem with that, and maybe it's because, I'm the dinosaur in the room, mm-hmm. is that I have yet to find anyone who can quantify those efforts for me. I see a lot of internet attention going to certain titles. I see, a lot of what we used to call ink, but I wonder how that translates into book sales. I do not have that answer. I'm not sure I have heard anybody yet who does.
Right.
So I think that what we have to do in this age of limited budgets and downsizing of media and book review departments which disappear every day.
Yeah.
I think that what we have to do is really target the effort to the audience that is going to be interested in this book. And like you said, don't send a health book to a science fiction writer.
Yeah.
But you find out who in that department at that newspaper is covering a particular maybe health issue.
Right.
Or maybe, or maybe political issue, or any number of things. You can zero in on the individual, and it's labor intensive, and it makes us crazy, but it's what we have to do, and it's harder than it used to be.
Well, and that's why an email from you is going to get through instead of an email from an author, because the people who you deal with know that you don't send them stuff that isn't related to what they're doing.
That's one of the things I'm proudest of, is that I don't send inappropriate material.
Right.
So when somebody does bother to open my email or open my Jiffy bag, it's going to be because when they open it up, they're going to be assured of at least having a passing interest in the type of book or the subject matter or the individual that I'm promoting. And so the days of the author tour are over.
Right.
I used to send authors to a different city every day. I remember they would call me at the end of the day and report in, to see how their media appearances went. And I'd say, "Where are you?" And I had one guy say, "I don't know." I said, "Look at the telephone and tell me the area code." "Okay, you're in Cleveland. You're where you're supposed to be."
Nice.
So, these days, nobody travels for book tours. And the shows that are still on that use authors are so much more difficult to get than they used to be because of the sheer numbers, because of the sheer numbers of people who are trying to compete for limited airtime.
Right.
It's better with a publicist than without a publicist. Is it doable by yourself? Sure. If you're doing nothing else with your time and you can spend all day every day doing that, I'd say, go for it. It can be, there are expenses, that are attached to promoting a book, and, some places where you would, take an ad or get a listing, and but it's all got to be very targeted to the people that you want to reach, and so basically, that's what we try to do. That's what I try to offer my authors, rather than the huge, the big picture like in the old days. Now I call it the drip theory. You do a little of this, you do a little of that, and you see if you can get to the people who are specifically interested in a subject matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some of us like to think we can do it all, but I'm smart enough to know that I would much rather do a podcast interview than I want to do written interviews. And a lot of us know that we need to think outside of the box now. And we also, like you said earlier, find the people who know how to do what they do, and let them be a part of it. Like with you put the book out to different people, and, you had a little committee of people that all helped you.
Oh, absolutely. And
I had a woman that I interviewed a few days ago, and she literally had a village. She was in an industry where she had been in the industry for 25 years, and she literally had 15 to 20 people involved in the production of her book. And, just each one had their own little specialty that they could, it was a nonfiction book, so each one had their own little specialty that they needed to give her input on. And I said to her on our podcast, I said, you're one of these people that has proven that it takes a village to produce a book.
It absolutely does. I got very lucky because I had contacted, when I was producing a book that I am currently marketing for myself now, a book on weight loss surgery called Weighty Issues, Getting the Skinny on Weight Loss Surgery. When I was working on that book, I needed some editorial input. Well, I called a friend of mine who is a wonderful editor who just happened to need some press releases written at the same time, and she was pulling her hair out. I said, oh, gee, I think we can work this out.
Nice.
So I did some writing for her, she did some editing for me, and I have a better product for it.
And that's awesome, because there are so many of us that are really good. Like I said, my daughter is a good editor. And not just a copy editor, and I don't want to say just, because copy editors are very, very important. But there's two kinds of editing. There's the copy editing, and then there's the content editing. And she can do both. And I'll think I'm sending something perfect to her, and she'll be like, nope. And I'll be like, I didn't really do that. Yep, yes, you did. I'm like, no, I didn't. And, she can go through and she can clean all that stuff up. And what it is you become too close to your work. Absolutely.
And I'm sure some days you're thinking, why did I ever teach that kid to read? But, another thing that it was, because we've been talking about independently published authors, I think that in terms of taking a village, I think it's important to hook up with or investigate certain organizations. I just recently joined the Independent Book Publishers Association, and the amount of, I think it cost me $129 for a year's membership.
Okay.
And the amount of information that they are sending me, I'm not sure I'll ever be able to use it, but oh my God. They give you, just to be a member, they will offer you discounts for certain promotional outlets that would cost you more if you were not a member.
Awesome.
And so I've already saved, just in savings and discounts, I've already
gotten your money
back the cost of membership. So I'm just thrilled. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make too much hay with everything, because everything does cost money. But that particular organization does really support independently published authors. For example, right now they're talking about, I think something that came in the other day, about having made a deal with Publishers Weekly for a cover, and they can put your book cover on the cover for X number of dollars, and what would ordinarily cost you, because they up the book covers, so it's everybody gets a little spot. What would ordinarily cost about $1,000 a piece is going to be half that.
Nice.
And so, and very well worth it if you have something that really needs that kind of wide exposure. Mm-hmm. So I'm very happy to be a part of that organization for my own edification.
Right, and for what you can offer your customers now. Your clients that are hiring you to do their publicity, you have another resource.
Absolutely.
That, either you can find something for them, or you can tell them they have to join because they have to do X, Y, or Z within the organization.
Oh yeah, I'm doing that for a book that I'm working on now. Written by a hospice physician.
Okay.
And so we're using the organization to reach out to very specific areas that would be appropriate for that title.
Yeah.
But the days of the easy booking are gone. Mm-hmm. Everything is like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
So I think that you need somebody, if you're looking for a publicist, I think that if I can just sort of give your listeners a tip or two, make sure that they can write. These days, some of the younger people, and some of the older ones as well, but people who are coming up in this business, and they text and they tweet and they Facebook and they can't make whole sentences, and it makes me nuts. So make sure. I
totally understand you on that, and
make sure that they can write. And when you're talking to a publicist and and they're trying to get your business, and they say what they can guarantee you, I say turn around and find the nearest exit.
Yep.
And run like the wind.
Yep.
Because there are no guarantees in publicity.
No.
The only thing I guarantee is my best effort.
Yep.
I feel that if it can be done, I can probably do it. I have stick-to-itiveness. I know where to go. I know where to send it. I know how to send it, and I'm a really good writer and a facile writer. So that's what I would recommend to your listeners. If I could give a few tips.
Yes, that's awesome, because a lot of the people who are listening to our podcasts are, they're either people that are just getting into publishing, or they're people that are, they have a book out there, maybe it's not doing as well as they want it to, and they may be getting approached by the scam publicists. You can see, you can't see the air quotes that I'm making. The so-called publicists that will, for $200 they'll get you on 5,000. They'll get you 5,000 Twitter fans or 5,000 Facebook fans, and those fans and followers are useless to you if they're not looking for what you're selling.
Exactly.
So you need to work.
You didn't need me, Deborah. You already know this stuff.
No, but you know what? You know why I interview people like you is because if I tell people something, they listen. But if you, the expert, tell people something, they listen even more. So, I could talk about this until I'm blue in the face, but hey, Nancy does this for a living. Debbie doesn't do book publicity for a living. She might want to. But, I would much rather talk to people like you that are the experts in the field, and you verify what I'm saying. And
unfortunately, thank you. Unfortunately, there are so many people who get into this business by putting their hand on a rock and saying, I are one.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And there are still a few of us old school PR people who are in the business and maybe enjoying it a little less than we used to, but can still make it happen better than the individual author can do on his or her own. That doesn't mean that we don't elicit the author's comments and suggestions, because nobody knows your book like you do.
Right.
Nobody knows your audience like you do.
Right.
So, we really try to work very closely with the authors to zero in on where to go, and who to go to. Once we know who to go to, that's what people like me know. We know how to do it.
Yeah.
And we can do it. And I always try to give the most bounce for the buck. Unfortunately, another caveat is if you are expecting to hire a publicist, and this is anybody, you're expecting to hire a publicist and make back that fee in book sales, it's unlikely.
Yeah.
However, if you have produced a book or written a book or had a book published that means something to you, that has a message you want to get out, that has a story that you feel is important to tell, that has, that you want to inspire other people, that might have, other ways to go than just in resulting in book sales, then I say, go for it.
All right. When I write that book, I'm hiring you.
You got a deal. I'll give you a good deal, but no guarantees.
No guarantees. Well, and in in any business, in anything in this economy, there's no guarantees anymore, but you have to just do your best. Get the people around you that know what they're doing, don't self-edit your book. You can market to your own little group of people, but get a professional website done, hire a publicist, do these things to make sure that you're getting out there. And if you can't afford a publicist right at the beginning, look around and try to market for yourself for a little while, and then you'll realize you need a publicist because you're not getting the exposure and the lift that you need all by yourself because you haven't built your platform to the extent that you need to. And a publicist can help you build your platform.
I always give the same speech to my authors about, trying to manage their expectations. And the last time I did that, I proved myself wrong because the first thing that we got for this author was USA Today. And then the second story was a major story in the Denver Post.
Nice.
And I'm saying, oh my God, why did I open my mouth?
Yeah.
But and the first few weeks went so well, I had to tell the author, don't expect this for the whole time. You know, that this doesn't happen. This is not the usual results. Right. So it was actually a very pleasant surprise.
So, all right, great. Well, thank you, Nancy, so much for sharing your insights with us. Where can people find your PR company on the internet?
Well, the name of my company is the Sayles Organization, spelled Sayles, and so they can find us at salesorganization.com.
That's awesome. I like that. I got to tell a quick funny story. Back in the day when I was married and I was doing wedding photography, my last name was Fogg, with 2 G's, and my I had a sign made for our car that said Fogg Photography, one of those metallic signs that magnetic that's stuck in the car. And my ex-husband actually got into a fight with a guy at a gas station once who kept telling us that Fogg Photography was a stupid name for a photography studio because you would think all the pictures would be foggy. And I'm like, oh, seriously.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes your name is a help and sometimes it's a hurt. It was a conversation starter, at least.
I'll tell you. That's all it takes.
The Sayles Organization is an easy one. Never mind. You spelled it.
Sayles.
Sayles. So, all right, great. Again, thank you, and thanks to all of our listeners for listening to our podcast. Please be sure to come to BookGoodies.com if you heard this on iTunes or you aren't on your website when you find this. Please come over to BookGoodies.com and do a search for Nancy, and a couple podcasts we've done with her will show up. And you can leave some comments and some questions, and maybe we'll get enough response to this that we can do a follow-up in a couple of months. And as always, we would like you to be able to tell us about your book. We have a link at the top of our website to tell us about our book and to contact us if you want to be on one of our podcasts as well. We want to thank Geekcast.fm for hosting all of our podcasts and providing a platform for a large number of internet marketing and marketing podcasts. And you can find me at deborahcarney.com. So thanks everybody for listening. Get writing and have a great day.